What's going on, guys? You're having a great day today, and today we are about to talk about Mobile Suit Gundam, The Witch from Mercury. This is episode 19, titled Not the Best Way. Before I get into my thoughts, I want to hear from you guys, so head on down to the comment section below and let me know what you thought of this episode if you've seen it, and while you're there, I'd really appreciate if you could leave a like on this video and subscribe if you're a fan of anime and Japanese gaming content and want to see plenty more coverage on Witch from Mercury in the future. As Miorine and Guel arrive on Earth, they are transported via a convoy to meet with the protestors. Upon stepping out, Guel bumps into one of the kids he met when he was held captive and follows him whilst Miorine goes to negotiate. Elan gets the chance to look through Norea's notebook, realising that she wasn't always as angry and aggressive as she is now. When Norea tries to get it back, she finally breaks down in tears and is comforted by Elan as Nika sits confused by the situation. Miorine's negotiations don't start off well, as she's questioned about the missing Earthians taken during the Planet Quetta investigation despite being unaware of it. The group put forward a demand for all Spatians to leave Earth, though Miorine refuses to accept, as it would mean her friends in Earth House would have to leave Astakesha as well. The Earthian group agreed to suspend all protesting for 10 days until the results of the presidential election are clear. Reeling from her experience with her sister and mother, Soletta tries sneaking out of a room to get some food, but is called by Choo Choo, who tells her to eat with the rest of Earth House, cheering her up a little bit. Guel and Kananji catch up to the kid, who accidentally lets slip details about the prince, who's been secretly behind the Dawn of Thoughts attacks. Putting two and two together, Guel realizes that the prince is shaddiq and leaves Earth immediately to find Ceres Zenelli as proof of Shaddiq's crimes. With only Miorine and Prospera remaining on Earth, Prospera puts her plan into motion, using the data storm to take control of a tank and fire directly at herself, allowing her to leave her position and destroy the Alpha's prototypes. Belmeria's conversation with Feng of the Space Assembly League reveals the front management company's involvement in Ox Earth and their plan to interfere with the Bennery group. Belmeria agrees to help, informing her of the Quiet Zero component at Planet Quetta, but Feng is shot and killed by Godoy. All hell breaks loose on Earth, with the blame being pinned on Miorine over the news. Soletta sees this and realizes why Eri cut her from the whole situation. She knew Prospera's plan and didn't want Soletta involved in it. I think it's safe to say that this is the episode that puts everything into motion. Like, everything truly kicks off. The stuff that almost the entire series, well, actually, yes, the entire series has been building up to. This is the crescendo of the series, and I could not be happier with it. It was nice to see an episode that is heavily focused on Miorine, who I think throughout this core has not been the greatest character. She's not really got the attention, the spotlight that she's deserved. This episode gives us that, and she's actually trying to do some good, but it's ultimately upended when Prospera kind of starts a war on Earth. This is Gundam. Like, this is the most Gundam episode of this entire series so far. There is one shot in particular that I said on Twitter is the most Gundam shot, most Gundam moment we've had throughout The Witch from Mercury, and it's of a mobile suit stood, flames all around, and there's a kid crying. That is the most Gundam thing I have seen from this series so far. In fact, it gave me very heavy vibes of Mobile Suit Gundam Hathaway, which is a absolutely fantastic film which you should all watch on Netflix. I briefly want to touch on Elan and Norea before we talk about, the bulk of the episode and what we're all here to discuss. I really love them in this episode. They're not in it a lot, they kind of just get one scene, but they definitely felt like the most human they've felt throughout the entire show, where Norea breaks down, Elan kind of comforts her, and he does get this idea that she was not always this insanely rage-induced person that's always angry. There's something behind, that persona of anger. And I really hope that they do continue to explore that, and I'm sure they will in the upcoming episodes. Back to the really exciting stuff though. I do want to talk about Guel and that interaction that he has with Seto, who is the kid. It sets up things that we already knew. Of course, we knew that Shaddiq was behind everything. We've seen it, but none of the characters do, and they're finally they're finally getting to learn that, should I say, and it's going to lead to this confrontation, and I cannot wait to see it between Guel and Shaddiq. Two characters that had respect for one another early on in the show, but as Guel has changed, Shaddiq doesn't like that. And one thing I'm noticing a lot about Shaddiq in this series is that he likes to be in control, and he likes things to remain as they are. He definitely has like more of a traditionalist viewpoint. Even when he says something about Guel defiling Miorine, he just has this idea of like almost this perfect individual, someone that is not flawed, someone who essentially exists to be a bride. It's a very misogynistic, sexist kind of idea, and it's not something that you'd usually see in Gundam, at least from my perspective. I can't really think of any examples of that, but I really like it. It does feel very realistic, feels very in line with how they've kind of portrayed Shaddiq so far. He's a character that does not like change, and Guel has been through a massive arc of change throughout the show, so we went from liking him to essentially disliking him. And I'm not sure whether I've already mentioned it before, but essentially the character of Shah, who is of course like the most iconic villain in Gundam, he's kind of like split in this series, where shaddiq has elements of Shah, but also Prospera has elements of Shah. I think when they're referring to shaddiq as the prince, that is very much a Shah type thing. The look of shaddiq, the kind of initial setup of the character was that he definitely felt like that similar character to Shah, like in terms of looks, maybe in terms of personality a little bit as well. And then we move on to Prospera, who is very much like Shah in terms of the goal of the character. She's on a Shakespearean revenge mission, if you want to call it that, and oh my god, Prospera just starts a war in this episode. She is probably the most interesting character in the show. Guel is a character that I absolutely adore. I love Sleta, she's very likable and all that, but I think Prospera is the most interesting character. She is essentially the villain, but you can understand where she's coming from completely. She's a character that you can empathize with to a degree, but you also hate her. There's so much moral ambiguity, complexity to this character I love, and it's all come to a head in this episode where just things completely go off the rails, and I loved it. Like, every second of this episode, I absolutely loved. Would I say it's the best episode of the show? That's debatable, but it's definitely up there. So those were my thoughts on episode 19 of Mobile Suit Gundam, The Witch from Mercury. Before I get out for you, I'd really appreciate if you could leave a like on this video and subscribe if you're a fan of anime and Japanese gaming content and want to stay up to date with my coverage on this series. Above all else, though, I want to hear from you guys, so head on down to the comment section below and let me know what do you think of this episode if you've seen it. What was your favourite moment? What was your favourite reveal? What was your favourite event within this episode? And with only 5 episodes left, how do you feel about this series in comparison to the rest of the Gundam franchise? But as always, thank you so much for tuning into mchat today, and I'll see you all in the next video.